I gotta do fucking Halloween. What would be good for Halloween? We can always do Captain Noblin, learn about diabetes. That's scary enough. We got home fruit. That's too scary. Alright, you can't go that deep. Set Riders. Ogre Battle. Well, that might be kind of fun. We got Sparkster, R-Type. It's too hard. Ninjas. Ninjas are always good. That shitty label though. Fuck it. What about Demon's Crest?
It's finally time to play Demon's Crest. Surprisingly, this game is a little nostalgic for me. My childhood friend would rent this game all the time, so I'd play it here and there and generally had fond memories of it. So I don't really want to go into the story too much or anything, but the main character of this game, Demon's Crest, is Firebrand. And he's a character that's made multiple appearances in other Capcom games. First, you might have seen him as the Flying Red Demon from Ghosts and Goblins, and he's a real bastard to kill. Second, he's starting his own game called Gargoyle's Quest on Nintendo. That game is awesome, so I recommend trying it out sometime. But in Demon's Crest, Firebrand gets a bunch of elemental crests stolen from him by asshole antagonist Phalanx. These crests control power over the demon world, so it's up to Firebrand to get them back. Demon's Crest is a pretty unique blend of both a Metroidvania and a boss rush style game. In fact, the first thing you do in this game is fight a boss, twice, and this guy takes up about half the screen. That's the pretty cool thing about Demon's Crest, is all the bosses are pretty unique. The first level is a really cool throwback to the Ghosts and Goblins franchise. And Firebrand starts out with a slow fire attack, and he can hover in the air for as long as he'd like. This is a really nice improvement over the NES game, where he can only hover for a short amount of time. The first level does have a couple secret things you can grab right away, including a potion bottle and a vellum, and that allows you to cast spells later on. There is an area that's off limits until you receive a power-up later in the game. You'll face another boss at the end of the level, and you'll see this guy throughout the game. Every boss does have a pattern, but some are much easier to figure out than others. After you're done with the first area, you can immediately roam the entire world map. It's not that big, however it's not completely populated yet. Once you defeat certain bosses, another area of the game will open up. You can go to pretty much any area you want, but some have more items to grab than others depending on what upgrades you've already found. Nearly every level has multiple paths to complete if you found the correct crests. For example, with the Earth Crest you can bump objects out of the way to find secret passages. With the Air Crest you can reach higher grounds, and with the Water Crest you can reach new underwater passages, and so on and so forth. There is some serious sequence breaking you can do in this game, which allows for an easier playthrough if you know where to go. There are many hidden power-ups throughout the levels, and obtaining the right powers earlier on will help obtain them. It can definitely make certain boss fights easier. Nothing is too hard or cryptic to find, so I don't want to spoil the location for everything. I will say that the hand talisman can be found very early in the game if you can pad up your life meter or buy some early potions. It's incredibly useful to have early on. The Time Crest can also be obtained earlier than expected, and it's by far the best crest in the game. Demon's Crest makes a wonderful use of its atmosphere. There is just a ton of really cool background imagery all throughout the game. Everything is dark and eerie, just how you would envision the demon realm. Most of the bosses look completely badass as well. I really like Belth, who is an early boss in the game that's hard as balls to defeat. He just looks deadly, and he definitely is. A lot of the bosses take up a ton of screen real estate, as well as give the real sense of danger. It's really cool. As for the level design, it reaches most of the common SNES tropes. You have your castles, there are forest levels, which coincidentally turn into the fire level, there are your ice levels, water levels, underground caverns, and more. The music works out really well here. Capcom stuck with a soundtrack that incorporates a lot of pipe organ type of notes. It makes a lot of the game feel pretty soulless and eerie. but in the best way. The Super Nintendo was the height of Capcom, and they always delivered in the music department. The gameplay of Demon's Crest is very tight and responsive. The only real complaint I have with it is there's some pretty bad slowdown in parts, which can make some of the sections a lot harder than they should be. So with all this said, I do have some negative complaints about this game, so here you go. For complaint 1, the Fire Crest has 5 different abilities you can find throughout the game. You can only equip one at a time, which is fine, however only 2 of them are really any sort of useful. Unfortunately, the Tornado ability is almost completely worthless. You don't need it, it's not good for boss fights or anything, and it's totally outclassed by the Air Crest, which you can get pretty early on. The Claw Crest can make it so you can climb on spikes, but again, the Air Crest makes that completely useless. The Demon Fire in theory sounds awesome, as it has the highest attack damage of all the Fire Crest abilities, but it's immediately outclassed by the Time Crest. And the Time Crest does the same damage and lets you take half damage, so that sucks. The second complaint I have is that there are spells that you can purchase throughout the game, however they're all pretty damn terrible and don't really do anything all that helpful. Seriously, don't even bother buying them. And for the third, you almost have to cheese some of the later bosses because they're so unbelievably difficult to the casual player. I'll expand on what that means soon. One of the really cool things I find about Demon's Crest is that there are multiple different endings you can have. There are 4 in total, and it's probable that you will see all of them during a casual run. Before you go into the final area of the game, you'll want to fill all of your potion bottles with ginseng. It restores all of your hearts, and the end boss is such a pain in the ass that you'll need every single one of them. Once they're filled, just head to the final level of the game. The level itself isn't anything too difficult, but there is a hidden item you'll want to pick up, the Fang Talisman. This is the item we're going to use to cheese the bosses. The rest of the level leading up to Phalanx is your typical boss rush. If you know Capcom and you know Mega Man, they're totally into your boss rushes. Since you have all of the crests and some flashy new items, these are no longer a problem. The end boss Phalanx has more transformations than Frieza. The first form is the same thing you've seen before. Use whatever you want and finish him off quick. The second fight takes a little bit more time, and he summons a room full of water. You can either hang up in the sky with them equipped with the Time Crest, or you can play along and use the Water Crest. This will help you avoid and cancel all of his attacks. You'll just need to dodge his charge and do the old hit and run maneuver. The third part of the fight is much more difficult. He'll try to push you into the spiky sides of the room and do all of his other moves. Switch into the Earth Crest to keep from the sides and pelt him with everything you have once you're free. Eventually Phalanx will fall. Or will he? And of course not. Now you have to endure one of the most frustrating boss battles that I've encountered in years. Phalanx turns into a giant lava snake behemoth monster. I spent probably an hour trying to figure out the best way to beat this guy. Just take a look at how much shit is on the screen. These floating platforms always get in the way. He shoots electricity whenever you get near him. And these extremely annoying floating orbs and a fucking Kamehameha for good measure. May God help you here. There is a strategy, however. You'll have to jump off the higher platform and float as high as you can near the beast. Once it's safe, float down to a specific area near his face. You'll always have to destroy both of the orbs he sends off, and soon after that his mouth opens. Take this opportunity to land a shot or two. Remember that cheese strategy I mentioned? You can pause before shooting, equip the Fang Talisman, shoot, and switch right back into the Armor Talisman. It will help make this battle shorter, because it can take an obnoxiously long time to kill him. And after he dies, throw that fucking controller down and grab a cold one and watch this nice, long, well-deserved cutscene. What a ride. If you happen to do that good ending I was talking about, there will be a code at the end to face the secret boss. If you thought the final form of Phalanx was hard, good fucking luck. Just like the last fight, you're going to have to fill up with ginseng potions immediately. There will be a new area northwest of the first level. Go there and be prepared for the fight of your life. This is the Dark Demon, and he owns your ass. Even with the Heaven's Crest, there's just too much shit happening to comprehend. The Dark Demon has two forms. The first one you see is only vulnerable to hits on the top half, and good luck getting there. He moves around so much, and there are so many projectiles that feel impossible to get up to his level. If you do get up there, he summons a rain of blood that deals a ton of damage. He also shoots out this homing orb that's such a pain in the ass to get rid of. Even if you destroy it, he just immediately shoots out another one. Eventually, he'll send out the second form, and here's where he can start dealing some damage. Get up to his face, switch to the Fang Talisman, and unload on it. As soon as a projectile flies at you, immediately switch over to the Armor Talisman to tank it. Repeat the strategy as many times as it takes until he dies. Feel free to crack open another cold one after defeating the Dark Demon and watch the final cutscene of the game. And in short, that's Demon's Crest. It's a fine title for the Super Nintendo. Aside from a few of the complaints I discussed earlier, I really loved this game, and I actually did beat it multiple times before writing this up. Even as a casual playthrough, Demon's Crest is only maybe 2 or 3 hours long, and it's much shorter once you know the locations of all the hidden items and all the boss patterns. That's really short for a Super Nintendo game, but every minute of it was enjoyable for me outside of those 2 final boss battles. Those were extremely frustrating. And as for the graphics, the music, the gameplay, they're all great. I guess I would recommend this game to anyone. It's really easy to get into, and it has enough there for the advanced gamers to give them a solid challenge. If you're into physical copies, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to spend somewhere around $80 on this game. I, of course, was lucky enough and got mine for $6 before the rise of retro games back in the day. Thankfully, if you're not into collecting physical stuff, Nintendo released this on the Switch if you have the online subscription. For just $20, you can play this along with some 50 other NES and Super Nintendo games. You really can't argue with that price. As for a final rating, because, I do that, I feel like I have to give Demon's Crest a super high score of 4.5 out of 5 stars. And if you enjoyed Demon's Quest, try hunting down a copy of Gargoyle's Quest 2 on the NES. You won't be disappointed in anything other than that price tag. And to everyone, thanks for watching and have a happy, safe Halloween. Boo!